turning 83 in a month or so.
Yeah.
And then Rolf, you turn 80 in June.
80.
In 2 months, I'll turn
2 months.
80.
And then
I
you're
turned 76
you're
at Christmas.
52.
Yes, I was 52
Okay.
several years ago.
Several years ago. No, you're how old?
76.
He will be 77 next Christmas.
77 is next Christmas.
Yeah, okay. And so that's how we all happen to be here.
So actually, strangely enough, that's actually the order we have. We have the youngest to the middle child to the oldest, even as you're
right.
lined up here.
The oldest and wisest.
That's true.
There we go.
Okay, so if it's oldest and wisest and the youngest and cutest, then what does it make the middle child?
I wondered about that my whole life. That was something that always bothered me. This is time for true confession. I can remember when we went to Connecticut to see Dr. Hinkle and her farm. And Walter wanted to stay and work for Dr. Hinkle on the farm. Lifting rocks and maybe driving a tractor.
Putting in the electricity.
We wired her house.
As your father would have done
Yes.
at the house. And Norman said, "May I stay too?" And Woody, he calls her Frida, I call her Woody. And Woody said, "Oh, that's fine." And I said, "May I stay too?" No, that's impolite. You don't ask. He was the cute little one. He was the very talented, bigger one, and I was just the little one. And so I can remember going home in the back seat of what would that have been? A Hudson or some old car.
I think it was a
1920s.
Chandler.
No, that was the Hudson. Was the
Hudson.
green car? Yeah, the one next to the last Hudson.
Of the Hudson.
Yeah,
The green
the
Hudson.
27.
The 27 Hudson.
Yeah.
And I can remember riding home by myself in the rear seat thinking, that's the price you pay for being the middle one. In the story.
And I got to stay because I was the smallest one, and I was the only one who could climb through the crawl space underneath that house and drag the wire with me to shove up through the floor for putting in the wiring in the house.
So that's why you got to go.
That's why I got to stay, because
The
I was
gopher.
the mouse.
This. That was
And just real quickly, give me a list of your children, grandchildren. Boy, this is a tough test. I didn't mean to make a written test out of this.
Well, you're forgetting one element of
well, there
the component
are
parts
two
of this
Lindas
get
in the
together.
family,
Right.
and then there's Carlos and Kathy isn't here, and Susie is over at the place by the beach, and Rui is somewhere in between, and who's that? That covers well the grandchildren. There's the smallest one. I took him to his first experience with
Yeah.
the waves in the sea. He stood in the water and telling the waves, "Come on, come on."
I bet he didn't say it in that language, though.
No, he said, "Dan." And then who else is
It's
here?
kind of fun to remember.
Sarah is.
It's kind of fun to remember that Jose Luis, Susie's child, is 7th generation Uruapan.
Trevino.
Yeah, Treviños in Uruapan. That's just another little detail.
And so, who's over at the place there now? There's
Well, there's
Little Bundy,
a Sarah and
there's Sarah and Clara Marina, and then Carla and Sophie and little Frida and my little namesake are over there with Carlos.
Come here.
Well, for my life, recently it's been very sedentary. I've only been living up in Fort Collins, Colorado, and going skiing at least once a week to keep myself in physical shape, and
You ski once a week?
at least once a week. Yes.
That's in the winter months.
That's in the winter months. Now, in the summer months, I'll have to take off in my new VW Beetle to both coasts because I have to be fair about this. So it'll be one trip to the East Coast to visit Allison and her family, and one trip to the
And
West
who's all
Coast.
her family?
Joplin now, and Annika and little McKinley. That's the family there. And take care of the house up in Sandwich, New Hampshire. I have some people.
Well, there's a
who want
little
to stay
side
there.
light that Norman didn't mention on the skiing. Now that he's 70, he doesn't have to pay for this.
Oh,
Yeah.
you get all free skiing now.
They don't believe it, and I got to show my driver's license and everything else in order to get my free ski pass.
Do you use new skis or old skis?
Well, I have a pair of old black head standards,
Oh, good skis.
but
Metal.
I've also been going over to the new contoured skis. Yeah, they are nice. I will go along with that.
Someone also said that you, in the springtime, like to
Kayak.
kayak, but they also said a real typical thing would be you just get a motorcycle, pack a sleeping bag and a tent on the back, and you'll go with an old BMW R75 or something like that,
That's
and you'll
right.
just.
One of those old 1976 R75s.
Oh, so old.
Yes,
That's a
yes.
new car for
And
you.
go up in you got it, and go up in the mountains and tie my hammock between a couple of big pine trees and watch the stars all night.
So how long? What, it was a couple months ago you decided to come on this trip, or is it pretty recent?
No, a couple of months ago, when it was first announced, I figured, yes, I should come. And John was going to come, but unfortunately he's in classes this week, so he couldn't get away. And Richard, from the start, wanted to come, and in spite of immigration and everyone else, he got here.
Oh man, that must have been a slip.
That was a slip.
Yeah.
No, it was a slip of the lip, because his proficiency in Arabic and Urdu convinced the Eastern officer at immigration that he should really make out the waiver for Richard so he could get across.
Oh,
Yeah.
very. Are you serious? That's help?
Yes, it helped.
Oh, cool.
He talked to the guy. And the guy looked Eastern and said yes, he was Indian, from India. And so Richard talked to him in Urdu, and he said, "Come on, I'll open up the office and make the affidavit out for you now."
And where? And you're sleeping in a hammock these days?
Yeah, but should point out, he first misjudged him and talked to him in Farsi,
Yeah,
and that didn't work.
that didn't work. No, I didn't know that he did that.
Yeah, he first talked to him in Farsi,
Oh.
thinking he might be Egyptian
Yeah.
or Arabic.
In Arabic.
And he was not Arabic, so then he tried.
But that wasn't an insult, was it?
No.
Okay.
It was not an insult.
Okay.
No.
But you're sleeping in a hammock right now?
Sleeping in a hammock, that's comfortable for camping. Oh, the other thing I did, actually this was getting on to almost a year ago. I have a new fall boat kayak, and we did 80 miles with 3 canoes and my kayak down the White River.
And how recently did you do that?
Actually that was 8 months ago. No, it was last summer.
Very
But
active.
I'm getting ready to put the kayak in the water again.
Put in the water again.
Yeah.
Okay, and so Rolf, give us a snapshot of your life right now, the last little bit of time, and just even deciding to come here.
Okay, as you know, all decisions in our family are made between my dear sweet wife, Ellen, who is a complete partner in everything I do. No matter how crazy it is, she's just as crazy. As a matter of fact, when we think of the funny, weird things we do, we come to the conclusion that we are what?
A real piece of work. That's what we call ourselves.
We are a real piece of work. We're a real piece of work. Now, within the past year, I've been kind of busy because Optical Coating Laboratories' successor company, JDSU, had a big run-up in price of the stock, and that involved some financial planning, which took quite a bit of time. We did that. And then we have been very active in the ship that Helen and I brought back from Greece, the authentic World War II landing ship of the type that I served on in the Pacific. And we have that in a museum now in Omaha, Nebraska, but we want to move it. And then Helen and I went out on a cruise, and I had a very, very serious attack of problems with my back, and wound up being taken off the cruise ship on Guam and then flown to Honolulu, and then I had major surgery on my spine, including grafting in a couple of new bones. I don't think you'll be.
Oh, come on. It'll suddenly pump it up to R-rated, but I think okay, what's the vote? Should we get it?
Yeah.
Should we have what do you think, Bundy? Should we have a shot of the scar?
Absolutely.
Okay, come on, let's see the scar. Oh.
No, I don't want to ruin the race.
Okay.
I don't want our scar. And so I didn't think that we would be able to get here for this weekend. But after getting home, 2 weeks ago tomorrow. We've been home 13 days. A couple of days ago, I realized I was feeling well enough physically, although I am the reason we all have to be seated right
Sure,
now.
yeah.
But I decided we could make it, and so we decided to come down for a day, came down commercially, and when my younger son heard we were coming, he made a decision in 15 minutes that he would be here
Also, to lend us the skill in making this production.
So where are your other children and grandchildren right now?
Both Linda and Lisa are here today. Roger was not able to come, so those are my 4 children.
And then the grandchildren would have been, let's see, it would be Sean and Ryan will be here.
Sean and Ryan from issue from Linda. Is
Right.
that the proper phrase? Issue? Yes, yes.
Okay.
And let's see, who else is here?
And then it'll be Nick
And
and Johnny,
Nick and Johnny from Lisa.
and John Navarro's here.
And John Navarro is here, and Bob is here with Linda.
And then Kim is where?
Kim is, and she is a student at Columbia University, and she just recently skated in the national figure skating competition in ice dance as a senior and took 6th place nationally. So that
And she's
is-
doing well in school, isn't she?
and she's
She made the
she's on the
dean's
dean's
list.
list at Columbia.
What are your preconceived notions of what it's going to be like talking up there? What do you think you're going to talk about? Is there anything that you are looking forward to or hoping, or what are your expectations of this gathering? And once again, I'll do it in the order we did before. I will go ahead and start with, well, actually, we'll do it opposite order. We'll start with the youngest, which will be Normie.
Okay, obviously, I always tell stories about what my brothers have done. And I think this would be a great opportunity to do a little editing and correcting so that the stories aren't quite so out on cloud 9. I'll come back to cloud 7 with, so correcting some things. I think also, as Rolf pointed out earlier today, what is it that is unique, unusual, valuable in our interrelationship? What did we pick up from our parents? What are we passing on? What do we have to offer the rest of the family that's coming along? Because we do have something to offer.
Then I have a quick question. 2 questions. Actually, the first question was on, you were saying the accuracy. So right off the top, who do you think is going to have the most accurate memory of your childhood experiences? You think you're going to be pretty accurate? You think you're going to be corrected very often, or you think you're going to be correcting everybody else when they get it wrong?
I think there's going to be correction all the way around. I'm going to remember certain things like, hey, I was the one who was riding in the sidecar when Rolf was driving, so I'll be remembering what the bumps felt like. He'll be remembering which corners we made, and in particular the one time we took a turn off the trail and he took the turn off the trail and I didn't. I kept going straight. But he did stop and wait for me.
For one thing, I hope to make up for a little lost time. As we pointed out, it's been 25 years since we've all been together, and it's a long time since I've been to Irwapan. And I expect to learn some interesting things. I expect to learn that some of my preconceived notions of what was going on in the minds of we 3 young boys are wrong notions. What Walter thought of me, what I thought of Walter, may be a surprise to Walter, will certainly some would be a surprise to me. And the same thing, my relationship to Norman. I think this is going to be very interesting. I expect to go away from here a lot wiser and with a much stronger sense that we are a family.
Bundy and I, when we first came down here, we were thinking of, as the kids were very little, there was only one, it was Carlos, and wondered whether it was but it might not be an injustice to raise a family down here where they're so isolated and so few contacts. Well, that has changed considerably over time, as we have found that sooner or later we have contacts from very rich contacts with all kinds of people from different walks of life, and people who have been able to contribute a lot to our own kids. And certainly it's a different scene entirely from society up in, say, in New York or Chicago. You go to cocktail parties and so forth, and you see a lot of people and you rub elbows with them, but what happens when we have friends who visit us, the people we bump into down here, it's not rubbing elbows. Usually, since they're more or less in isolation, one person or another, then we spend maybe an evening, maybe a few days, maybe a couple of weeks. We've had some who've stayed on for a few years, but the contacts here have been very rewarding. But the one gap in all of that has been in our own family. We've been down here and pretty much isolated from the Santa Rosa, California part of the family, and here it wasn't until Linda's wedding that some of our children got to meet some of your children and grandchildren, and just that little moment there when Carlos's little daughter, Carla, who plays the flute, showed up at the wedding there, and for the first time in her life met Annika. And here was Annika with her fiddle, and these two not only they met, but they met on the common ground of providing music for the entire assembled group. Well, that whole atmosphere that was just touched off very briefly at Linda's wedding demonstrated very clearly how much was still left to be developed in bringing the family together and having more contacts.
Do you think in the conversation you'll have with your brothers that there will be things that will surprise you, that there are either memories that you don't remember, or more accurately, relationships that you had as children that as an adult you're not aware that that's actually the relationship you were having with your siblings?
No.
Do you expect to be surprised?
I'm sure that you know, at this stage the statute of limitations is off.
That's right.
I
Okay,
think
great.
that Walter's commenting on Linda's wedding is important, and what's been left out in this is that this whole getting together here was touched off by Linda once again, because Linda is coming with a group of her friends who were participants in the wedding, and that was the agent that started this thing.
So it was
in action.
actually that Linda was planning on doing this anyway, and all of a sudden it just started to grow from that to.
It's grown from, because Linda was coming and she was bringing her friends, and if anybody would like to join her, they were welcome.
Right. Well, because what's interesting is from our side up in Santa Rosa, I think it must have gone to Carlos, because then from Carlos, it kind of went to all my brothers and sisters, but it was Lisa that picked up the flag bearer, and then kind of expanded from there. So it started with Linda, spread to her oldest brother, and then it spread to my oldest sister, and then it's kind of seeped all the way down through.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat and fairly common way the family functions.